Good morning and welcome. My name is Camille Jackson and I am a very proud member of the Louisiana Bar Foundation. We are excited to have this third and final session for this year's Grantees training. This program started several years ago with the idea of strengthening leadership for our grantees by reviewing board member responsibilities, setting program and administration priorities for the organization, identifying current client service trends and best practices, and evaluating mission goals and outcomes. I attended one of these early sessions and enjoyed it so much that I decided to serve on this committee that brought the program this year to you all. So I am very excited, as you might have heard Edmund say, that Mr. Brent Henley is joining us today. Brent is considered an expert in strategic planning, group facilitation, and developing leadership and sales performance skills. He has led thousands of workshops, including one for the board members for the Bar Foundation recently, and retreats for organizations. His firm, the Pyramid Group, is a partner of Wilson Learning, Selamy, and the One Page Business Planning Company. Brent graduated with 2 degrees from Centenary College of Louisiana and a master's in industrial and organizational psychology from Louisiana Tech. He is a fellow of the Government Leadership Institute at the University of New Orleans, a graduate of Leadership Louisiana. He is an adjunct faculty member at the University of Georgia Carl Vinson Institute of Government and an author of the Nexus Initiative. And we are very glad to have him today. Turn it over to Mr. Edmund Gearing to comment on a few things.
Camille, thank you so much. I just wanted to say on behalf of the board of directors of the staff of the Louisiana Bar Foundation that we are grateful for your participation in today's program, but certainly the previous 2 training sessions. I have been fortunate enough to chair this committee and have some great folks, as you see, who have been very supportive of this opportunity. And we are grateful for you for the work that you do every day. But for the on-the-ground work, the grants that you make, the programs that you offer, the Louisiana Bar Foundation would not be as successful in facilitating and delivering civil legal aid and access to justice programming as we are. So thank you for that. As I've said on several occasions, I've had the fortune to participate in at least 2, and I think, Brent, if I went back and looked, it would be 3 strategic planning sessions that he has facilitated. And the efficiency and conciseness of his style is so refreshing. To instead of going through a months-long strategic planning, you will go through minutes-long strategic planning and come out at the end of this with what is not only a very valuable document, but also a document that will guide your organizations through the next 18 to 24 months. And I hope that you will find that helpful. Day 1 was a governance training. Day 2 was more programmatic and operational. And day 3 today, I like to call is aspirational. Strategic planning is where you want to be with your organization. And Brent's going to help you with that. So once again, on behalf of the LBF, thank you so much for participating. I'm going to turn it over to our colleague and Muse and support staff extraordinaire, Renee LaBeouf, who will go through some housekeeping items before we turn it over to Brent to get started. Thank you again.
Excellent. Thank you, Edmund, and thank you, Camille. I'm just going to be quick. We are going to keep everybody muted. If you have a question, this is meant to be, conversational. If you have any questions you want to ask during the presentation, please feel free to unmute yourself. Otherwise, everyone will be automatically muted. Additionally, the session is being recorded. So this session, along with the first 2, will be circulated to everybody who is registered and all of our grantees for review after. Additionally, any presentations we had or any additional documents we had, those will be circulated as well. Feel free to share them with your staff and any board members that were not able to participate. And if that's it, we'll go ahead and turn it over to Brent and get started.
Thanks, Renee. You can also use your chat feature, I guess, huh, Renee? If
You
anybody want
can,
to do that.
yes. If you
Yeah.
prefer to use chat, feel free to do that. If you want to direct message me a question, I can ask it for the group. Whatever is best. Usually if somebody has a question, someone else in the group has the same question. So don't hesitate to ask anything you might be curious about.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and Renee, I'm going to depend on you to help me with managing those chat things. So just barge on in if there's a question, and we'll get it answered. So
Got it.
thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me. Edmund, good to see you again. Camille, good to see you again too. Looking forward to this morning. One of the things that I often get when we talk about strategic planning is that, oh yeah, we did that, and then we put this 150-page document on the shelf, and then about a year later, I looked at it again, and none of it was relevant, and so I don't know why we're doing this. Another reaction I sometimes get, hey, and raise your hand if you get these if you have these reactions. I would just rather stick a hot poker in my eye and go along with this rather than do all that kind of stuff. The other one is, hey, the world is changing so fast that, why should I do a plan? Because in 3 months, the governor's going to do another lockdown or something, and then I have to change the plan again, or the environmental conditions are changing, or the economic conditions are changing. And so why should we do that? So I was happy to hear Edmund talk about a refreshing way that we do it, because we don't look at strategic planning as one of those things that should be an arduous task. We look at it as it's an essential thing for your business, because you need to have a plan. And years ago, I came across a guy named Jim Horan, who had a company in California called Rent a CFO. And Jim was a CPA, and what he did was he created a small little consulting company in California to be a CFO for companies that could not afford a full-time CFO. And what he found in those companies and in some of those not-for-profits was that they didn't have a plan. They didn't have a plan. They didn't know how to do the plan. Some of them had what was called funding plans. They had these, multi-page plans of how they go get funding from venture capitalists and go get funding from banking institutions, but none of them had a really working plan that kept them focused. And so he helped his clients create one, but he understood a fundamental thing about most CEOs, most boards, most key leaders in an organization, is that if it was on multiple pages, it would never get looked at, ever. It had to be on one page, or it had to be on what we call a strategy map, so that you could look at it visually every day, see it, keep focused on it. Because if you had to turn more pages over and over to get to where you wanted to go, you would just move on, because you're too busy. You just got more things to do than that. So Jim created a company based on those experiences called the One Page Business Plan. And you can go today on Amazon and buy their books and do those kinds of things. There are a number of us around the country who are one-page business plan certified consultants, but I've used Jim's methodology for a number of years with our own clients, and somewhat modified it in a lot of ways, and I want to share those with you today. But I thought I would title our work today, Creating Your Vision in a Post-COVID World, because we're going to talk about vision and what that really means. And I don't know if this happened to you, but I had my plan all set out last year. And I was having a fantastic January, a fantastic February. And then Friday, March the 13th came. And frankly, I thought all this would last about 6 to 8 weeks. And then after 4 to 5 weeks, I realized it's not going to last 6 to 8 weeks. It might last 6 to 8 years. Don't know. But it's going to last longer than a couple of months. But one of the things that I personally did was went and revised my plan, and then got to our clients and helped them revise their plans as well, so that everybody could focus. Here's what I learned from that experience. Every one of our clients that revised their plans in April of last year have been wildly successful for 2020 and the beginning of 2021. All of our clients that did not recalibrate their plan and just kept on with the original plan have not been wildly successful. So one of the things that this methodology teaches you to do, that this plan is organic, it's a living document. It needs to be updated and recalibrated and looked at. But if it's on one page, it's much easier to do than if it's on a couple of pages. So there's my email. You'll be able to have this deck if you'd like it, Renee. I can send it out to you in a PDF, and you can make that available for folks that they would like. And if you need help, you can get me. But just a couple of things about me. I grew up in Oklahoma, went to college at Centenary, and I'm married to a half French, half Spanish redhead from New Iberia. And we live in Lafayette, Louisiana. So 4 kids, empty nesters. 2008, we built a house small enough where they could not move back. And now we only have a couple of rescue dogs that are the most cared for animals on the planet, I think, because of COVID. They're, my wife works from home, I work from home, and they have lots of attention. So what I'm going to do is walk you through this one-page plan methodology, and I'm going to show you how this could be a powerful document, and you'll be able to talk about your business plan in less than 5 minutes after you do this. So get some context before you just start jumping off into planning and going into. There are 4 things that you should do prior to starting to write your one-page business plan. Everybody probably has heard of a SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It's a very common tool that they teach in business school to help you get some context about what happens in your business, what might impact you. I have a little bit different way of looking at that. I use 2 different questions to get at a SWOT. But if you use SWOT, that's okay. It's just a personal preference that I have. My first question is, make a list of the current performance strengths of your organization. And when I say current, I mean March 5th, 2021, today. What are you would consider this to be a performance strength of your organization. And you'll probably identify 3 to 5 performance strengths. And then make a list of your current performance weaknesses. What are you not so good at doing? Somehow you fall short somehow. You don't have to analyze why you fall short, but it's just not something that you do well. And that gives you some context. And the reason that's important is because whatever plan you come up with, you need to make sure that it exploits your strengths. Successful companies are not built because they focus on trying to limit their or try to fix their weaknesses. They're built on because they exploit their strengths. Every organization has weaknesses. But if you spend too much time on your weaknesses, you're going to forget your strengths, and therefore you're going to forget what brought you to the dance in the first place. So it's important to see what strengths you might have some control over, but there are weaknesses that you might have some control over, but there may be some weaknesses that you don't have any control over. Outside external forces, regulations, those kinds of things. You don't have any control over those. So you have to determine whether or not you want to spend any time, money, and energy on trying to improve those. What you may find is that your investments are better suited for exploiting those strengths. The second question is to identify the changes and trends that you think might impact your business in the next 2 to 3 years. This is the crystal ball question. And it's a question that requires a lot of subjectivity, but there are things externally that could impact your business: pandemic, storms, regulations, things that we don't have any control over. But there's some things that we might have some control over that are changes and trends that might impact our business. But it helps us to have some predictability about what we think is going to happen the next 2 to 3 years. So by asking those two questions, you essentially get the same result as if you had done a SWOT analysis. The next is, especially for not-for-profits, is to define your role in the community and with your partners. So where do you fit? What's your sweet spot in that? And it's to make sure that you are clear about that and others in your organization are clear about that. And then to identify any client service trends. What are your clients asking for in the marketplace? What trends do you see that they're doing? Many of us in the last year have had to flip and pivot in a lot of different ways to help meet the needs of our clients. Because we're in the learning and development business, I learned this year that although for the last several years, we've had a lot of our workshops available virtually, none of our clients really liked that kind of delivery. They liked the instructor-led in-person delivery system. But COVID and the pandemic had forced us to pivot in order to keep learning and development alive in our organizations and our clients to go to a virtual format. They've now learned that although it's not the most preferred, it's still effective, and it's saved them a ton of money. They don't have to fly people into Dallas and rent a hotel and ballroom and fly instructors in and keep everybody fed. Now they can do that in small buckets and over a period of time and save lots of expenses. That's a client service trend that we've identified. We fully expect that when things are back to the new normal, that there will probably be a hybrid solution to those. What I mean by that is our clients are going to think about doing both in-person and virtual. And I think that's going to happen in a lot of client service trends. So I'm going to take a deep breath here, see if there's any questions, give anybody a chance to ask a question or provide a comment. We're good. So for those of you who have your cameras on, head nods if you're good. Good. All right. Excellent. Tells me you're listening.
Thank you. Great job.
So let's talk about what the one-page business plan is. So it's an approach that captures the essence of your business on a single page using keywords and short phrases. And you'll notice that in the visual graphic there are 5 elements. I'm going to describe all 5 elements, but you also see that there's limited space to be able to put those things on. And that is by design, because it forces you to be clear about where you're going, what you're about, what you're measuring, what you believe in, and what you're working on. So let's talk about those 5 elements to those, because sometimes people are a little confused about the difference between mission, vision, strategies. And there's, and I've been in conversations about the definition of those things, and just becomes the evil vortex, and everybody's got their approach. I'm going to share you my approach to those things. So I'm going to start with mission first. So I'm sure all of you have a mission statement in your organization, and mission statements are, first of all, mission statements answer the question, why does my organization exist? And good mission statements drive the behaviors of your people. They're not necessarily meant to be put on a billboard or a business card or used for marketing. That's not their intent. Although if it happens to do that, that's okay. What what they're designed to do is drive the behaviors of the employees and the leadership of your organization. They need to be easily repeatable by everybody in the organization, and research shows that good mission statements are 8 words or less. And so my favorite mission statement belongs to Pepsi. It's a member of the Yum Brands. Yum Brands is publicly traded on the New York Stock Exchange. Everybody knows Pepsi. Do you know Pepsi's mission? It's 2 words: kill Coke. That's it. Kill Coke. And it drives the behaviors of everybody in the organization. For example, Pepsi is never first to the marketplace with any products. What they like to do is have Coke introduce products, and then Pepsi measures what kind of interest there is with consumers and decides if they want to play in that space. And then if they do, they go and introduce their own competitive brand on that, because they know their sweet spot, one of their strengths, is to take market share away from Coke. Remember back in the 70s when they had the taste testing commercials and people would pick Pepsi over Coke? I mean, that's what Pepsi was designed to do. Another good example is FedEx's mission, which is deliver the world on time. And what that does in terms of behaviors for FedEx is every morning at every FedEx station, all the drivers get together and they huddle up and they put their hands in the middle, maybe not in COVID, they're socially distanced, but they repeat the mission: deliver the world on time. And another way that it demonstrates, you got a question? No. Another way that FedEx's mission is inherent within the behaviors of their employees is when there's a disruption in service because of a mechanical issue. If one of the vehicles of FedEx breaks down during the day, during the time they're making deliveries, they don't have a long drawn out process of how they figure out how they're going to get packages to their customers. All they do is they huddle up with another driver, then load the packages as rapidly as possible from the vehicle, and the 2 of them go and deliver all of those packages that were intended for 2 vehicles, and they abandon the asset. That's the way FedEx terms it. Abandon the asset, because the asset is not nearly as important as delivering the world on time. They'll figure out somebody go get a tow truck, go get the broken down truck and go get it repaired. But the mission is to deliver the world on time. Now, you'll never find that from the United States Postal Service, because if their asset breaks down, they're told to stay with the asset until a tow truck gets there. And then the tow truck takes the postal delivery person and the delivery truck to a repair facility, all loaded up with all the mail and packages, and it stays there until it gets repaired. Then it goes back out into service. So that's why your mail gets delayed sometimes, because of a mechanical issue with the United States Postal Service. But FedEx says we're going to deliver the world on time. So good mission statements are 8 words or less. I would challenge you to take a look at your mission statement and see how you can whittle it down. A lot of times people have in their mission statement the name of their organization and where they are, and they have elements of strategies and visions in there, but not clearly what their mission is. So the mission of my company is challenging people to think. That's our mission. And we think about that. We think about that every day with my colleagues, and I think about that every day with our clients to make sure that we're challenging people to think. The second element to a good business plan is vision. Vision is a statement of destination. It means you're not there yet, and it is what you aspire to look like in the future. And so good visions are aspirational in nature, and they should have some elements that take your breath away. You're not quite sure if you can get there or not. The best way to create a vision is to actually put yourself in that future spot and to ask yourself this question: what does success look like? And to make bullet points. Now, we used to do 20-year visions. We used to do 10-year visions. We used to do 5-year visions. The world changes so much and so fast these days that lately we've been doing 3-year visions. And so the statement is, if we were doing a 3-year vision today for your organization, I would word it like this. On March 5th, 2021, no, excuse me, be March 5th, 2024, because that's 3 years from today. March 5th, 2024, what's happening in your organization? And so you have to temporarily abandon your thoughts about how to get there and just envision, what does March 5th, 2024 look like? And then create bullet points. Each of those bullet points should start with, in 2024, I see. And then bullet point, bullet point, bullet point. And get 4 to 5, 6 bullet points of what success looks like. You do that, now you know where you're headed. I work with a lot of, is there a question? I work with a lot of organizations that have done visions in the past, but they haven't recalibrated them lately. And one of the things every organization should do is every year recalibrate that vision. So when we get to 2022, we're actually going to be looking at, what does 2025 look like? When we get to 2023, we're going to be talking about, what does 2026 look like? So it's always a recalibration that sets your aspirational elements out there so that you've got something you're focused about achieving. The next element is what we call strategies. Strategies are broad statements of what we believe in that will allow us to achieve our vision. Sometimes people call them corporate values, non-negotiables. I've heard them talk about all kinds of things, but I'm going to show you some examples of business plans here in a little bit, and you'll see strategies, and you also see some different examples of strategies of how you can have. I also think of strategies as the guardrails on the Basin Bridge of I-10. They keep me from going into the swamp. So we use strategies to help drive our decisions. So if someone, a board member or a leader in the organization, comes with an idea about a program or an event or anything that might be a change in the organization, we can actually see it if it aligns with the strategies. And if it doesn't, then it gives us permission not to do it. It might be good for somebody else, but that's not what we do. So strategies keep you focused toward your vision. The last two pieces are what we call objectives. I like to call them metrics. It's what we're going to measure. It's financial measures, excellence measures, quality measures. I'm going to show you some different examples of objectives, but it's what we measure. And the rule of thumb for an objective is it has to be graphable. So always keep that in mind. If it's not graphable, it's not an objective. It might be something else, but it has to be graphable. And then finally, plans are, what are the things that we're working on? What are the projects that we're working on or that we want to get done by the end of a quarter or a year? And it might be something like upgrade Microsoft Office to 365 by the end of June. And because it's a project of some kind. And good plans have two things associated with them: a date when it's due and a person that's responsible for getting it done. We call those champions. Champions are those folks who are going to make sure that the project is going to get done. They may not be the person doing the work, but they're the person that's going to make sure they're driving the completion of that. Sometimes I've seen some organizations call them shepherds, but we call them champions. Any questions at this point or comments?
I'm thoroughly enjoying your presentation. It's very concise and it's good measure. It's good information. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I heard a dog in the background. I'm delighted to hear about that.
It's my golden doodle.
Hey, I'm curious. How many of you currently have a strategic plan for your organization that you're working on? It's a working plan. Raise of hands. Good. How many of you need to do one? All right. All right. So let's talk about, best way to understand one-page plan is to read one. So I'm going to give you one from our client, Colorado Garden Window Company, out of Colorado. So their vision is, when the next 3 years, build Colorado Garden into a 40 million home products company specializing in manufacturing and distributing custom and replacement garden windows and skylights. So, vision statements describe the business we're building. This is aspirational. In 2020, when they came up with this, they're only a $18 million home products company. They in 3 years they want to get to 40. But you'll notice that in the vision companies, they're going to specialize in manufacturing and distributing custom and replacement garden windows and skylights. So these are not windows that would be in your bedroom. These are garden windows and skylights. That's the business that they're in. Their mission is to bring light, air, and the beauty of nature into homes through creative windows. A little bit more than 8 words, but it describes why the business exists. And if you go to Colorado Garden and you ask any employee what's the mission, they'll tell you: bring light, air, and the beauty of nature into homes through creative windows. They can tell you. And so when somebody at Colorado Garden comes and says, "Hey, I just had a phone request to put in some windows and just some plain old standard windows in the second floor of a home," they say, "Well, we don't do that. We do creative windows only. We're customization. We do garden windows and skylights." They have 4 strategies. Strategies are broad statements that describe how the business is going to be built. So they're going to focus on upscale home developments and baby boomer remodeling trends. They want to build the company into a nationally recognized brand name. They want to be the vendor of choice. They want to be the vendor of choice to builders and developers by maintaining an inventory of standard window sizes. Because if you've ever built a home or you've known anybody who's in the building business, they don't like a lot of customization. They make money when they can have standard window sizes available all the time. And they want to control the quality by building them themselves in-house. So no outsourcing to China, no outsourcing to Canada or anywhere else. They're going to do all the manufacturing in-house. So they have 3 big projects. Introduce the new scenic garden window at the San Francisco Product Show in March. Hire new sales rep by April, focus on signature homes in Denver and Provo, and phase in new packaging design by March 31st. Now, what they do at Colorado Garden is they have 3 key projects they're trying to get done each quarter. And so once these get done, then they'll set a new, they'll identify a new set of 3 for the second quarter. And then they'll identify a new set of 3 for the third quarter. That's why the document becomes an organic document. And they don't list all the plans they're trying to complete this year on that one page. They've got them on another document, but they only list the 3 for that quarter. Here are their objectives. This is what they're trying to measure. Increase gross revenues to 17 million, which is 15%. They want to achieve profit before tax EBITDA of 1.5. They want to reduce cost of goods sold to 38% through automation. They want to reduce distribution cost to 4% of sales. They want to reduce inventory to 3.3. They want to increase active store count to 4,500 by year end and achieve 98% on-time delivery with 98% accuracy. So you notice that each one of those can be graphed. And that's what makes an objective, or what I like to call a metric, is because you can graph them. And it's important to be able to have a graph, a visual, either a pie chart or a bar chart or some way that you can look at so you can see where you are. Because you only get what you measure. If you don't measure it, you're not going to get it. You only get what you measure. Now, for not-for-profits, not only do they have financial metrics, but they might have metrics that are related to their clients. For example, it could be the number of client touches we have per year. So some not-for-profits measure how many times they touch a client each year. And sometimes it's, and depending on what your nonprofit is, sometimes you're trying to get clients in and get clients out. You're helping them, but you don't want to make them dependent upon the organization. So how fast do you get them through your programs, your intakes? But you can identify, there's another good tool out there called the Balance Scorecard. And you can Google the Balance Scorecard and see some different, you can Google Balance Scorecard for not-for-profits and see some different metrics and objectives that some nonprofits have used before that are just not financial. The other thing that some of our nonprofit clients measure is learning and development of their own people. So, a metric could be that by the end of the year, 50% of our folks will have this particular degree or certification. So there could be objectives like that. So that's an example of, and all of that would just be on one page. I've showed you 5 slides, but all of that would just be on one page. And there are different ways that you can put that on one page. You can handwrite it out. You can use the one-page business plan template, or you can use what we call a strategy map, which is a mind map, just as long as you have it on one page. I know some of you like to do mind mapping, and this methodology works very, very well with the mind mapping techniques. And a matter of fact, we use mind mapping techniques as our primary method to do our one-page plans. They're just much more visually appealing, and it's on a map, and everybody gets the map. So let's go through. Any questions up to this point? Comments?
So how would I operate a department within a medical clinic? And so as you can imagine, the clinic has its own vision statement, mission, and value statements. And so what I am challenged with, I guess, is to develop this sort of plan for my department, but to ensure that it aligns with the overall organization's mission, values, and vision. And so just kind of looking, I mean, you've made this simple because SWOT just, when I get to a SWOT analysis, I just stop thinking. It's just too much for me.
I hear you. I hear you.
So this makes it a lot simpler for me. So I appreciate that. But at some point, if we have time to just kind of think through how I would do that, department aligning with the overall organization's vision and all of those things.
Yeah, that's Randy, that's perfect because you know, whatever departmental plans you come up with, they've got to align with the organization. I mean, that's just essential. But I would start with those a couple of those context questions that I introduced you to. So I would think about what's my department's current performance strengths? And what's my department's current performance weaknesses? And what changes and trends might impact my department in the next 2 to 3 years? And then you got your SWOT done. Now I can go back and say, okay, if this is the organizational's vision, what does success look like in 3 years for my department? And now, if this is the organizational's mission, what's my department's mission? So, Ray, what's the name of your department?
So we're just the legal services department, providing direct civil legal aid to patients of the clinic.
Boom, there's your mission.
Oh, is this being recorded?
Yeah.
Because I won't remember that.
Providing direct civil aid, legal civil aid to our clients.
Got
Boom,
it.
boom, make it simple. Yeah. So then when your associates say, hey, Rainey, I think we ought to be serving ice cream to all our associates when they come in, you can go, whoa, time out. You know, our mission is to provide direct. So we don't do ice cream. Okay. That's the ice cream department who does ice cream. It's not our department. And then you can come up with some, you look at the organizational values, and then you can come up with some of your, I would just adopt the organizational values as your own. Don't try to make anything up. Because that way, everybody's going to be focused on being consistent with the organizational values. Now you've just got 2 more things to do, which is come up with your metrics, and don't try to have a whole bunch of metrics. We advise our clients, just be focused on 3 to 4 metrics. If you only have 2, that's fine. When you think about doing a 1-page plan for, say, the finance department, some of those only have 1 metric, and that is to make sure they have a clean audit every year. I mean, everything else is just routine. It's accounts payable, it's accounts receivable, it's reconciling bank statements, it's those kind of, making sure checks get out on time, payrolls done accurately. I mean, all of those kind of, but the only metric is make sure we have a clean audit or 100% clean audit. So you don't have to worry about having a whole bunch of objectives. You can just have 2 or 3, and then your projects after that. And you may only have 2 or 3 projects. So we have lots of clients that have an organizational strategy map, but their departments have strategy maps as well. Is that helpful?
Yes, it's very, very helpful. It's
Good.
sort of happening. I'm able to think it through now. It helps that I'm not trying to create something different than what the organization already has in place, and just really kind of staying true to who we are, which is important for us. we're small in a large size organization. So not to get lost in all of that in an effort to be visible and impactful. So I appreciate that. Yeah, so it's helping a lot. I appreciate it.
Good. So let's go through, hey, feel free to take notes here because I'm going to walk you through kind of some lessons about doing this. So we talked about vision statements. What's the business going to look like in 1, 3 to 5 years? I prefer the 3-year vision, but we do have a client that has a 1-year vision. They're a technology company. It makes sense for them to have a 1-year vision because things are changing so rapidly in their industry. But you have to think about what kind of organization we are. If it makes more sense to have a 4-year vision, that's okay too. You want to talk, you want to think about what type of company or department you are and markets you serve, your geographic scope, your target customers, products and services. If you're in the business of sales, then what sales goals? But these are just some types of questions that you may have. And, your vision may look like something like a fill in the blank kind of thing. Within the next 3 years, grow XYZ company into a 1 million regional organization providing learning and development services to small to medium-sized businesses. So you could use a fill in the blank kind of vision statement to do that. Here's some, so that could be helpful. But, for a lot of nonprofits, the vision statement would be not necessarily grow, but maybe sustain or maintain. You may not have a dollar figure in there. You may have number of clients served or what success looks like. And we'll have some examples for you. Here's some mission statements. Federal Express, delivering the world on time. UPS, moving at the speed of business. eBay, the world's online marketplace. Lens Crafter, helping people see better 1 hour at a time. Sylvan, success is learned. But great mission statements are short and memorable. That's the idea. We once dealt with a organization that had a 34-word mission statement. I went around the hallways and asked people, so what's the mission of your organization? And they gave me these little short snippets that were really great. And I said, I'll give you $100 if you can recite without looking at it the printed mission statement of your organization. No one could do it, not even the CEO. And so when we adopted a short snippet, 6, 7 words, everybody could repeat it. So that's the idea, is it needs to be short and memorable. Strategies. So strategies answer these kinds of questions. What are our core products and services? So think about what are your core services. What markets do you serve? Could be what kind of clients do we primarily serve? If we charge for our products, what's our price? How will we price our products? Some organizations have a high pricing strategy because they believe in value. Some are what we call low cost providers, but you have to think about what your pricing is. How will we create initial trials of our products? So, some people, if they introduce a new product, can be discounted for 30 days up front, or it may not be. Sources of revenue, what people pay for, what they don't. Technology. Some organizations like to be leading in technology. In other words, they're early adopters. As soon as new technology comes out, they want it. They got to have the new iPhone. They got to have the new Samsungs, they got to have the new Googles. Some organizations are lagging in technology. Not doesn't mean they're bad, but they want to see what happens with that technology and how it's used before they adopt it. How are we going to attract employees? How are we going to retain key employees? What's our strat? What do we believe in? And if you're in a for-profit business, how you're going to exit. So you need the sweet spot is about 5 strategies. But if to answer Rainey's question again, if you're doing a departmental plan, the easiest thing to do is just to adopt the overall organizational strategies or values so that you can remain consistent. So you could have strategies around target markets, pricing, technology, strategic alliances, partnerships, public-private culture, management style, staffing, workforce. Those are just some suggestions on how you could think about that. And this is a fill in the blank. We're going to focus on blank, blank, and blank markets, build client bases, promote initial trials, create add-on sales, attract key employees, use strategic alliances. So when we're working with not-for-profits, we often talk about strategic alliances, partnerships with other not-for-profits, and often we'll create a strategy about that so that everybody knows that we're not trying to compete with each other, we're trying to help build coalitions. Plans are lists of the work to be done, specific projects, who's responsible, and when's it going to be completed. So the secret to writing down a plan is not only the action or the project that's going to get done, but the date by which it's going to get done and the person who's responsible for making sure that it gets done. Now that person responsible for making sure it gets done may not be the person doing the work. They may actually delegate those tasks, but they're the ones who are reporting to the leadership on the progress of the work. So, for example, plan statements, complete our formal business plan by 3:31, raise seed money by 5:31, complete a beta product by 10:30, introduce a Comdex, Q1, Q2, rollout markets. And then the thing that's missing from these plan statements are the person responsible for doing them. But those are simply added. Any questions? And then objectives, or what I call metrics. What are we going to measure here?
Brent,
I have a question.
Unmute my button, but I do have a question. How do you do that in terms of, because what you just showed us was for a profit company, but for say a nonprofit that provides legal services, civil legal services to the poor, how would you phrase some of those?
For a plan?
Yes.
So let's say your department is required to have everybody get some sort of CLE by a certain period of time. So that would be a plan statement might be all of our staff attorneys are CLE compliant by 12/31/21. And then there'd be a name of a person who would be responsible for doing that. Another plan, a sample could be on board one part-time attorney by 3/31/21. So it's whatever projects you have in mind that you think you need to get done. And here's the thing that happens. When we first sit down and we think about projects that might happen, I might only come up with one or two. But next month, I might come up with another one, put it on the plan. And then in June, I might come up with another one, put it on the plan. Because the rule of thumb is if it's not written down on the plan, it's not going to get done.
If I might just insert, and non-for-profits can still have money-making or profit areas that could be a part of that plan. It could be for the purpose of sustainability of a project, for the next 3 years. There's a number of ways that you can include, financial gain in that particular plan.
Yeah. Identify and secure 3 partners for XYZ grant.
I have a question about the length of time. Is this like a short-term, long-term? Is this where we plug those things in? Or are we looking at like a 1 year, like at the end of the year, these are the things that we will be, we hope to accomplish. Like these are the things that we will see.
So the plan is designed to be a 1-year plan with a 3-year vision.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So your vision is 3 years, but everything else that's in the plan is for this year.
If I can go back to the question before Rainey's last one,
Yeah,
I think the fundamental thing is there. The comment about making included financial goals is fine for management, but in terms of something that speaks to the whole organization, like your Pepsi and your FedEx, the plan is really for the whole organization and not just for the management team. And things like getting enough CLE are really kind of are more tangential. I mean, they're baselines, but they're not those kind of things that are really as important. We can accomplish those things and still miss our mission and all the things that we care about really building the organization towards. So if you could articulate some more on that issue, it'd be helpful, I think.
Yeah, if you're doing the organizational plan, that's exactly right. So the CLEs would actually get housed in a department plan and not necessarily organizational. The organizational plan is much broader, right, David? Mm-hmm. It's going to be, it's what the organization aspires to look like in 3 years. It's what's the mission of the organization. But if you happen to cascade that down through departments, then they become more granular. But that would not happen with the organizational plan. Mm-hmm. So when we're meeting with the board of directors and key leadership of a not-for-profit, we're thinking about the organization as a whole, and we're not getting in the weeds with what a certain department will have to get done. That would be for a later date to talk when we're talking to that department about what to get done. So some objectives, things to measure, quantitative pulse of the business, resources, how we hold people and organizations accountable, defining success, measuring end results of work, specific targets. So you could have things like sales or raising money as an objective. So every nonprofit's got a budget. So how much money do we need to raise by the end of the year? And you might have that broken out in terms of ratios, that we're going to have so much income from membership, non-membership, fundraising, grants. You could unbundle that in a number of different ways. Marketing objectives, operational objectives, quality objectives, safety objectives, PR objectives, investment. Some of you have rainy day funds, so you might have a metric about how much money you want to earn on your rainy day funds, your fund balances. The efficiencies in community. How many, we have some not-for-profits that actually have metrics about how many community activities they're going to participate in this year. We actually have a couple of for-profit organizations that are really involved in their community, and they have a metric on how many executives are going to be on not-for-profit boards in their community. So they can measure that. But the secret to a metric, the secret to an objective has to be graphable. Has to be graphable. And the simple formula is a verb and a noun and a date. And here's some examples. So it could be achieve fundraising of 50 million in 2020. Raise 10 million from our fundraising. Reduce the number of case files by 50%. So go ahead, Randy.
Yeah, I was thinking, as I'm thinking, listening to you and seeing this formula, one of the challenges I think for, especially on the nonprofit side, is when we do these to be realistic in developing this formula and not, I mean, it's got to be realistic. Like we've set an objective for ourselves to, you know, for the purposes of securing funding, but the existing, and you talked about what we look like, what our current state of things are right now, like in context. And so going after funding and over, I don't know, promising, over forecasting our ability to do certain things for the sake of funding. And it then it's brought in and it makes it pretty challenging. So it's sort of like, how do we manage that? Because we're trying to survive, right? In nonprofits. And so how do we manage that, but stay true to the core of our mission and values and vision?
So objectives metrics are not aspirational. They are realistic. So our vision is aspirational, but objectives are not. So when I'm facilitating one of these sessions, I'll say, so how much money do you think you're going to raise in 2021? Let's really talk about that. And we'll have a discussion about, well, we raised 5 million last year, but because of COVID and other than, so we drilled down, okay, we're only going to raise 4 million this year. We can always change the number. If we get handed a gift mid-year, let's say all of a sudden, I don't know, Congress decides that every not-for-profit's going to get $1 million, then we can always change the number. But we want to be realistic when we're doing our metrics. So a few additional thoughts. Don't rush the process. The goal is not to get a final document by noon. The goal is to work on it, create a valuable plan. But what makes it the most worthwhile is communication throughout your organization or your department, having a prioritization, focus, and clarity, and continuing to learn from the process. If you do this on a consistent basis, you're going to get really good at doing this. It's going to become a part of your DNA, where every quarter you're going to look at your plan and update it. There may not be any changes to it at all. That's okay. You've revisited it and you've looked at the prioritization of what you're trying to achieve. And a lot of times we've heard from folks is, boy, by revisiting my plan this quarter, I realized that I had started to lose a little bit of my focus, and now I'm refocused. That I don't have to go back to working on something that wasn't important. Because we can get off track easy. It's real easy to get off track. And we just go on a tangent somewhere. And then, but by having a plan also gives us permission in the organization to be able to communicate to people, this is what I'm working on. And if everybody knows what you're working on, then that's how you get measured. In some of our clients, both profit and nonprofit, they've done an organizational plan, they've done a departmental plan, and they've done an individual plan. And they've gotten rid of their performance reviews, and they just look at the measurements of their individual plans to determine whether people are doing their job or not. I always recommend that for not-for-profits that haven't done this planning process in a while, that you get your board and your leadership together. You hire an outside facilitator to help you drive the process. That way you're not driving the process, you're a part of the process. And that you create an organizational plan. And then you start practicing and behaving around that organizational plan. And then if you want to cascade that throughout the organization to the departments and to individuals, you can do that. But it's an evolutionary process. But don't rush it. And don't think that once I've created the plan, that's it. I'm done. Because you have to continue to look at that plan and remind yourself about it. That's why we put it on one page. A lot of our clients, as we create strategy maps, they blow them up into 24, 2 feet by 2 feet pages, and they put them on the wall of their conference room or in their office of their department, so they know what the plan is and people can see it. They don't stick it in the file and worry about it. It's organic. So the key words and phrases are important. Your business plan also tells us what you know about your industry, your competitors. And your success is always dependent upon everybody else's understanding of where you're trying to go and what you're trying to do. It's a great communication tool. We have some of our clients, when they're interviewing candidates, they show them the plan. And then they ask them, where do you think you fit in that plan? I love that question. It tells you if your people are aligned with your own strategies, your own values, whether they can do it or not. Because a lot of times people get hired, then they find out what the plan is and they realize, well, I didn't sign up for this. I thought I was signing up for something else. But if they know what the plan is at the time of selection, you can make better job offers if you know that the people are going to be aligned with your plan. We've had not-for-profits show the plan to candidates when they're choosing a new executive director, because they want to make sure that the executive director can focus on the plan. It's not the executive director, it's the plan. And they have to be aligned together. So just a disclaimer, it's not a substitute for a huge business plan that you might need to go get funding. It's not, but we've had not-for-profits attach their strategy map to grant applications, and they've gotten feedback that that was well written, And it made a lot of sense why you should get this grant. Because now we see your plan. But we tell our clients that are trying to do a full, complete business plan of 50 pages, do a one-page plan first, because then your financial business plan will be much easier to write. So just a final thought, you got to get the words right. That's why it's not a 2-hour process. And always feel free to make changes to the plan because it's organic. Every month I change my plan up a little bit. But it helps keep me focused. I don't change my strategies. I don't necessarily, I recalibrate my vision every year. My mission is the same. Some of my metrics get changed. And some of the projects get changed. I mean, when March 13th of 2020 happened, we had to flip to virtual. All my plans changed. And that's okay. But once I knew what they were, then it was easy to execute. And that's the idea. So I've got time for questions if anybody would like to ask or share or comment. Renee, I'm ending early if that's okay.
That is not a problem. If nobody has any questions.
Comments? Confusion? Concern?
Thank you so much. This was an excellent presentation that allowed, at least for me, I know it allowed me to have some very actionable items to take, takeaways, and I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was excellent. And it's going to help us with our strategic planning. So I really appreciate it.
And I'd like to just echo what my colleagues are saying, that just as a little comment regarding developing these plans in the nonprofit world, a lot of us nonprofit directors actually were in the service area for many, many years. So like myself, I'm a social worker and, found myself in an administrative role. And so it's been a steep learning curve to learn all of these business strategies. And so this kind of information is just invaluable for someone like me who doesn't have the business background, but yet finds myself writing grants, developing contracts to do business. So very helpful and very much appreciated.
Well, glad I could help, and feel free to contact me if you have any questions or need any help in facilitating your meetings, or just if you just want to call me and gripe, I'm up for that too, because some of you have board members who you just need to get off your chest a little bit.
Brent, how do we contact you?
So email is, I'll go back to that real quick.
I can circulate it with the meeting follow-up as well.
Yeah, so here's my email address. And you can go to our website, thepyramidgroup.com. And then I'll give you my phone number. It's 337-501-9057. And I love lawyers.
Can you make recommendations about people who can facilitate those strategy planning meetings that you discussed, like bringing in an outside facilitator? Is that something?
Sure. So, of course, my firm, but I would also contact Louisiana Association of Not-for-Profits, LANO. They've got a list of facilitators. And then if you've got somebody in your own organization or your community, tell them just to go contact a one-page business plan company, and they can get certified. Or if any of you want to get certified, they run virtual certification courses all year long. But if you Google one-page business plan, they have a workbook, and they have several workbooks for certain sectors, but they have a not-for-profit sector workbook.
Thanks, that's fantastic.
Well, Renee, thank you very much for allowing me to mess with your folks today.
Thank you very much, Brent. This was very helpful. And thank you all for joining us and taking the time to participate in these trainings. This is our last of the 3, so we hope you found them all informative and helpful. All recordings and materials are going to be sent out to everybody. And if you have any questions or you need to get in touch with any of the speakers on any of the presentations, all their contact information will be included as well. And if you have any questions, please let me know. All right. Thank you all. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, Renee.
Thanks, Brent.